I'm Steven. I'm part one of the Gingerb3ardmen.
And I'm Chad.
So I started out essentially, so Hurricane Sandy, I was in a show, and then Hurricane Sandy ruined our space the day before we opened. I danced with company XIV. And then it was my birthday. So my mom wanted to see what I was seeing in New York. So she got me a little Canon T3i Rebel, like a very small one, and just for me to shoot like just the city and skylines, or like things that I found interesting to change my perspective on how I felt about the city, because I wasn't in love with it when I came. And so that transitioned into me photographing people and friends and castmates and trying to figure out, like, do I like shooting things? No, I like shooting people. And I like holding space for people. And I like seeing them explore. And I think I was a lot more conceptual at the time because I didn't feel confident in my technicalities of photography. So I would just like throw like old newspaper and like write on it in cursive all in a bathtub and then throw my friend in a bathtub. And I don't do that anymore. I don't have the time for that anymore.
And like when we met, you basically put me in a black box. In his studio, there's like a black box with a bucket of water and a few twigs and a flower, and said, like, "Have at it. Go. Let's see how you relate to these items."
So essentially, while like shows were closed and people were rebuilding from Hurricane Sandy, I started upgrading things. I started getting into like manifestation and that type of work. And then I booked a job for Timberland Shoes, which had a buyout for $10,000 as a model. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna like buy a good camera. I'm gonna buy a good lens, and we're gonna try this. And then I like manifested wanting a space where I could actually start creating more and having more space. So I met this painter through a dance company that I used to dance for as well. And he was like, well, I'm looking for a studio assistant. So you just go run errands for me during the day, and then you can have the studio on nights and weekends when I'm with my kids. So I started doing that. It was across from Sleep No More in Chelsea, and I started shooting dancers, like just art projects, not anything good.
I thought it was good. Otherwise,
not like anything that would benefit this conversation of like headshots.
But
not that.
But good is a relative term, you know. Like, and
Good is a relative term.
Honestly, like I wouldn't have shot with you if it wasn't good.
That's true. So I essentially I told Chad on Facebook that he had really kind eyes. And I told my best friend, I was like, I think that's my partner, but I don't know how he's going to meet me. So I was doing this project with primarily dancers. Chad is an actor and a singer. And so I was like, do you want to shoot for this project? I want to see how an actor does with this. And he's like, no.
Most 9 times out of 10, I'm like, no, I don't want to be photographed. That's just who I am. They say like there's something about like you get a photo taken, it takes part of your soul away. I don't believe that anymore. But back in the day, I was just like, no, I don't want that.
You're like,
very insecure. This person here.
Crow's feet came from.
Yeah.
And then so then Chad finally, his roommate said his work is really good. Go shoot with him, see what happens. Yeah. And then I photographed Chad, and
I was terrified, of course, because being in front of a camera is scary at the time. This was like 8 years ago. Yeah. Like 8 years ago. Go ahead. I don't want to interrupt you. I can talk in a minute.
And then like I was showing Chad the photos. He's like, you're good at this. And then we ended up kissing, and then we kind of ended up starting to date, and then we moved in together within like 6 months, and then we've been together ever since. And then when I was in XIV and Cirque du Soleil Paramore, Chad started taking over the photography business. He was like, you should do headshots. We should do headshots. And
well, we moved in together about like maybe 9.5 hours after.
Hours ago. It's so fresh.
9.5 months after meeting, it was like the timing worked out that we both needed a place, and we really enjoyed each other's company. So we were like, let's just move in together. And while we were moving in together, I was like, you have all this equipment, and there's all these people needing good headshots that are affordable, and like you can't get good headshots at the time that are actually affordable. And so that's the dog toy. And so I was like, let's try to do this. I mean, we started from a very different place. And as the years went on, we vetted it and started like bringing things back. And I think for us, it's always been about how can we let this feel at the most authentic for that person, rather than like maybe when we first started out, there was a little bit of washing over the skin, and we wanted to like kind of reel that back as much as possible.
Well, I think we were also informed by other people that were like, you know how headshots go through fads? It's like this person's the person, and then next it's like this person's doing it for cheap, and they're kind of almost there.
Yeah.
You know, and you just start seeing that, like, it just becomes like this whitewashed, bright-eyed, beautiful, like, I'll never look more pretty, but it doesn't necessarily look like you in a room, you know.
But when you're just starting out,
the phase, so that's what I was kind of going off of, was like the dirty sugars, you know, like the
back in the day, dirty
sugars, like dirty sugars, where it was like beautiful, crisp, bright, and I was like, that's what I think. I'm in the dance sphere. That's what I think that I use as like my barometer, because that's what like MSA liked, and like CSD liked. They wanted that clean, commercial, bright stuff. And then so we just started going into authentic, and pulled back the editing and pulled back like a little bit of the blown out.
Well, yeah. Well, when you start somewhere, you start somewhere, and then you learn, and then you tweak, and then you grow. And that's the beautiful thing about photography. And that when I first started with Stephen, I think I started about that time when I moved in with you, I was assisting him. He was like, you're going to get this. It's like literally the learning curve for photography is so exponentially quick that this time next year, you're going to be a photographer. You know, it's like, so, and then we've been doing it together for about 7 years now.
Yeah.
And pretty much headshots. I mean, with other things as well. We do editorial work too. We shoot a lot of drag queens.
We love shooting product. We love shooting other things, but
yeah, but our bread and butter would have to be working with actors, singers, and dancers, because we love working with artists and helping them get. So it's a beautiful thing. I know that we talk very amorphically, just so you know. Like there's no linearity in our life. So I hope you're following this.
I'm following it. I'm
okay, good.
This is my
we're like, wow. like there's like, you know, it's like throw things up in the air, see what lands.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna pick up wherever I can. So
okay, cool.
Talking about you had said, you know, this is going to be a different conversation. I'm probably going to get different answers from you than I am from other people. So I guess my question would be, you know, what do you think makes a good headshot?
Okay, why not? Should I start?
Yeah, you start.
I think we should never. Our goal should never be to put an actor or a dancer or a singer into a room and try to make them look like everyone else in your aesthetic. You know what I mean? Like, we don't want to like take performers and say, our goal is to make you look like you live within our lens. Our goal is like, how can we morph our lens to fit you? And I think that's really important, because the idea is really capturing a person's authenticity, and how can we ground them in the room so that they're not thinking about the overall outcome of the shoot, and moreover about, hey, what am I thinking about right now? What is something that interests me? And that's how you're going to find that interest in the eyes, because you don't want someone to be thinking, God, am I doing it right? What do I look like? What's my hair look like? Oh my God, am I broken out? That's not what we care about. It's about how can you shed all that extra crap off of your skin and just be you. And that's one of the hardest things for people to do in the room, is just be themselves. So our idea is like, how do we get people to shed off those layers and expose themselves to us?
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like, if you're not interested, you're not going to be interesting.
Yeah, find something to think about that really interests you.
It's a static frame. Like, it has to have energy. So even if it's just like, when we look compositionally at like a frame, okay? So like, I'm here, I'm like a proud, full, like a pride, like Leo lion type. So I'm going to give a little bit more dominance, a little bit more bite down, versus the people that kind of don't want to be seen. They kind of go into this place. So it's the people that protect. So we look at the back as a protective mechanism. So when we start protecting, our back goes like this. When we start trying to like puff, whether it's a bluff or whether it's actual pride, or like, hey, I love you, I want to see you, that's like very open. So this goes to this with the heart. the wallflower? You
It's
know,
that whole
and the orange
kinesthetic empathy.
yeah, and
like,
how that sits in a still frame. And I think that to me and Chad is what really is important, is like, put your mind on something that's not like, am I doing it right?
yeah.
You know, breathing, exhales,
You do it.
feeling dropped in and calm and almost like sultry.
You'd be surprised how many people forget to breathe when they're in front of a camera. They just like walk up and.
Yeah, it's like rhythm. Like when you start breathing, you start feeling energy in your fingertips. You start feeling that chi move. You start feeling how much the body can expand and how much the rib expands, and that will change the way your chest expands. So there's something about like, if you breathe in and you bring energy into you, like, versus the exhale, there's a totally different aesthetic and vibe that comes with just like breathing.
And sometimes when people can't breathe, you hand them a crystal. You're like, here, this is gonna help you. Just hold on to this for a little while.
Someone is stressed out in a makeup chair will be like, just hold on to this.
Just hold on to this.
Just rub on it for a second.
Here's a smoky quartz or a smoky citrine.
Or a
It'll bring
dog.
you life. Or a dog, yes.
That happens a lot.
I'm sure, because it is really nerve-wracking. I hear from a lot of actors, and maybe we could touch on this. What's the right way for me to prepare? Like, what questions do I ask the headshot photographer? I'm just looking at their website. What kind of control do I actually have over my headshot session? So, what are some tools that you offer to actors pre-shoot that's helpful for you to be on the same page?
So first and foremost, I think what is important is the way we go about it is we prefer people coming into our space. So whether it is like coming to Beacon and desensitizing throughout like seeing nature, being able to take an exhale from the like vibration of the city. Like a lot of people like come into our space and like, wow, I feel so relaxed already just because I had time to chill. Like it almost was like that anticipation of the moment, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can't be anticipating for an hour.
How can I be hearing how can I hear my thoughts right now? How am I like actually breathing? How am I even thinking right now? This is great.
Yeah,
and they 9 times out of 10 they ask us, how much you pay here? Because they think about moving here themselves.
Oh, because you're in Beacon, right? You're in Beacon?
Yeah,
you're
Beacon.
Okay, great.
So we go back and forth between the city and Beacon, and we spend most of our time in Beacon because we love it. We love the vibration here. As you can see, we're like those woo-woo photographers.
No, I'm holding a crystal, everybody. So real.
Yes.
But I think there's something about like when you show up to set, like a set for a commercial job, or you show up to a set with like a team, you're like, I'm paying this much money for this type of product. A lot of, probably like 8 out of 10 times, it is a photographer that relies on their assistant a lot. They rely on a stylist, they rely on hair and makeup to make it a worthwhile experience, instead of just bringing you and bringing your authentic self. So in our situation, instead of going into this big white room that feels like expectation, everyone is looking at me.
Where they're required to hire a hair and makeup artist, we don't do that. We don't require anyone to do that because we feel like, hey, if you're good at doing your hair and makeup and you want to just show up as how you would look, because a lot of times you'll get somebody who doesn't even know how to do their hair and makeup, and then they have someone who's a professional do it, and they'll never be able to recreate that before they go into a room. And so that you'll get a casting director that's like, I'm sorry, who are you? Because they don't look anything like their headshot, and that's a problem. So we want to find ways to like encourage them, say, hey, if you can do this, if you can recreate this look, then yeah, hire hair and makeup. You just don't want to think about it during the day, so you can relax into the day and just ground.
Yeah, and a lot of times when you're even just doing like a supporting, not like an extra role or a featured extra or like something like a dancer on television.
Yeah.
They'll say they put you into makeup, but they won't. So a lot of people put a base on, and they actually like just to make sure that they don't look haggard, for like the early morning call time, and it ends up a lot of times they won't look like their headshot because those were like, that person took an hour and a half on your face.
Yeah.
That person will not take an hour and a half on set. They will literally just put some blush on you or like put a scrape on you and say, you're supposed to look tired.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, we encourage people via email to we typically don't do the phone consultations. It's just not our jam because it takes a lot of time out of the day, and 9 times out of the 10 that person's just shopping around, and unfortunately we just don't have the time for that. We're very busy, and I don't want to sound like that's kind of like a negative, because it's not. We think of it as a positive. But
they usually don't go with us because they
yeah,
think we're relaxed.
We're so relaxed. So it's like, these people, are they even really photographers? You know, what are they the Gingerb3ardmen? How could they create photos like that? No, but we'll list out like, hey, so bring this many clothing options, bring some contrasting necklines so we can like see different ways of framing your face. Bring outfits that make you feel like a certain character. Like, say if like you're going for this office secretary, don't wear costume, but bring something that makes you feel like you can relate to that character. And when they get here, usually they're going to bring more options than they need, which is good. So we can help them sort through them and really just like figure out a game plan for the day. Usually we'll have like a lot to work with. When you give them the option to just like bring what their spirit says to bring, like, you know,
because everyone's entryway and soundboard for these different archetypes, like we have the very standard like CSI type, like Blue Bloods type characterizations, where it's usually like leather jacket for women with some sort of like under thing, and
maybe
like,
a blazer,
a man with a blazer and a t-shirt, or like a leather jacket and a t-shirt, you know, and like that's very much so like what casting wants to see, because it kind of spoon feeds a little bit.
A lot of times they don't have the imagination. Casting directors don't typically want to have an imagination a lot of the times. Would you agree with that? They don't want to have to like picture.
I might be throwing myself under the bus here. I think a lot of times it's the non-creatives in the room. Well, are they going to be able to curl their hair? No.
That makes total sense.
Yes, of course. Of course they are. You know, they're actors.
Yes.
Yeah.
That makes complete sense. Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. I lost my train of thought. I typically lose my train of thought all the time. So go ahead.
About like having a spoon feed, like spoon feading, you know.
Yeah, but everyone's entry point is different for that. So like, for example, we had So there's like, for example, we shot a non-binary like performer recently that their version of these characters wore like a long like Japanese style shirt with like that's like, I want half of my face shadowed. I want to look like this person. I want to be able to go into like the Kingsman archetype. Like when they put on a turtleneck and a blazer, it looked like Timothy Chalamet. And I was like, oh, you feel more on the dominant side of the binary.
Yeah, they looked great.
So this is your lens of that character, and that is fascinating.
And that's just one character from the shoot too. So like they got that vibe in that like maybe 20-minute segment of our entire shoot, where we maybe have shot, I think we shot with them, we shot like 6 looks with them that day. It was very, very productive.
Yeah.
Some people will get 6 looks in, some people will get like 8, some people will get 4, because it takes that much longer for them to ground and get into the room.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
You had something. I just want to get that out really quick.
You know, honestly, I forgot what it was. That's why I tried to spit it out, because I'll forget if I don't have like a pen and paper in front of me and write it down, because I have like serious attention deficit, which is okay. It's not a hindrance. It just means you're multi-dimensional.
That's
like living on many different planes at one time.
Exactly. Let me ask.
With that said, like, go ahead.
I was going to say. This will have to be our talking stick, or if I keep talking stick. Well, I wanted to say, you know, what I feel like a lot of times when actors probably come to a photographer that already have representation, they have more of a guide on what they need to, on what the result needs to be as far as what they have to give to their representation, right? To be able to pitch them for roles. Yeah, if somebody doesn't have representation and they're new to the industry, what tips would you give them?
Authenticity. Because I think that personally is the most important thing. Because like, for example, like MSA, whether we shoot anything on a background or a black background or a colored background, they will ask us to probably
Put it on a white
edit
background.
onto a white background.
Like cut them out, and we're just like, no, we're not going to do
Because
that.
that's what they feel and they see gets
Yeah.
their people more work because they're a commercial dance agency primarily.
So we know if someone's with MSA, we're going to shoot mostly on like light commercial vibe, white background, super bright and punchy, because that's what they want to represent their clients as. And it's mostly dance agency anyway.
But
It's not like
with
it's actors mostly.
unrepresented individuals, I think the most important thing is the world is your oyster. So
What are your dreams?
what are your dreams? What are your hopes? What are your aspirations? Whose celebrity career would you like?
How do you relate to them? Where do you, what roles do you see yourselves in? Not to like recreate these roles, but like if you would have done it, how would you have done it? So get those creative juices flowing and imagination and dream, and that's how they get excited.
What are your favorite 3 outfits to wear?
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely.
In the city? Like if you wear these 3 outfits and you know you get compliments in these outfits, why wouldn't you bring them?
Mhm.
You know, there's something about like, this is how I feel my most me. And then you kind of frame the aesthetic of the image around these portrayals that make them feel confident. Because I think when you're shopping for representation and you're shopping for an agent, I think it's most important that we showcase our true self instead of trying to fit into what they would cast or they would rep, you know?
Because like, how are they going to work with you if you're trying to be someone else?
Mhm.
Like, don't you think that your authentic self is something that no one else can do? You know, if you actually try to be that person, which you don't really have to try that hard to be, like be that person that you are, and then someone else might see something like really special there because you're not trying to be that person who's already got the career.
And
Like,
you're gonna manifest
that
the
role is
agent that
filled.
you want. Like you're gonna
Yeah.
manifest that shit because you decide to be true to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Just like Rue.
Yeah,
He's
I
trying
mean,
to be true to
I just saw Rue getting all cozy. Well, I'd love to just see, I'd love to ask you, could you just walk us through a typical session?
Sure.
Yeah. If they come up to us, they can either drive or take the Metro North.
We would
We
pick
will
them up.
from the Metro North.
We would ask them if they want coffee. Would you like to stop and get some food anywhere? It's very relaxed. It's like friends hanging out.
And then we'll bring them in. We will tell them to take out all their options. We'll put them on a clothing rack so that we can see the color palettes that we're working with and talk about the archetypes that either their agency or the representation has decided to impose upon them.
We'd plug in that steamer in case they didn't do any of that stuff, just
Right.
because we want to make sure like the outfits aren't needing to be retouched themselves. So we would want to be able to like lint roll and steam and make sure everything looks as good and as off the rack as possible. Typically you would start a session usually. If I'm like not doing it myself, you would usually start, because I'm more of the anal like person who wants to prepare everything. That's who I am.
And I like to try to get started. And I will say I do take a really long time on the first set of photos.
Getting them grounded,
having dialogues, getting to know them as an individual and getting to know their spirits a little bit. Like, what do you like about the industry? What do you want to be perceived as? What is something that you feel you're not capturing in previous headshots?
What are your strengths that you feel that you have? What are you confident in as well?
Also, are you comfortable with, I can always tell pretty immediately where they're falling short in the industry, whether or not they're not comfortable and fully just sitting and stopping. So somewhere in those sessions, you'll see a full set of them, very close crop, getting in touch with just hands, because I think that there is something about taking the time to just tap into you and heartbeat and not looking about that can get very contrived. So I think we take a lot of time in the first set just so people can get in touch with where do my hands go? This feels awkward. My mouth is tense. And then from then on, you can just keep on cranking out stuff, because now we know each other. Now we know each other's humor. Now we know kind of the tempo of how their face works versus how I shoot. Yeah. and then you can kind of go from
And
there.
by that time, you can be like, so hey, what personality do you want to explore next? Like which personality or energy from your arsenal of shoes to fill do you want to fill right now in this moment? And usually they'll have someone to say, or sometimes they're like, I don't know. And then it's like you just kind of have to like guide them along and be like, well, let's do this. I like this outfit. What were you thinking when you saw this outfit? Like, okay, cool. So you want this to be your like business casual. Maybe you're going to play a lawyer, or perhaps this is a school teacher or something like that. And
Yeah.
sometimes we'll put like, somebody's like, I want to be a doctor. So I brought the stethoscope and I'm going to wear this around my neck. And I think that's kind of awesome sometimes when someone has that in their back pocket, like a stethoscope.
Still going.
Hey, I mean, if you want to spoon feed someone, spoon feed that client, you know?
But I think we will always start with a very basic, neutral,
almost commercial
almost
feel.
borderline commercial feel. It
Yeah.
always starts off with like a gray, like a whitish gray, and then it goes into a brighter white within the middle of the set.
Yeah.
Just to get some 3/4 options, so it feels more like digitals in case they ever move into like an agent wants like that for a job.
Yeah.
Like, can you give me some digitals?
And we'll give them a variation in the lighting. Like maybe we'll start out with like a soft box with like a more of an even tone, like warm, and then we'll take that off and we'll give you more punchy light to give you something different aesthetically. Yeah, which is really nice. And then go from there.
Yeah,
because you've got
And
all
then
kinds of lighting.
how does how do you, if somebody doesn't have representation, then do you help them pick their best shots? Do you kind of whittle it down for them? Like, how does that selection process work?
we actually almost never have to do that.
Yeah.
What's actually kind of fascinating about our clientele and our work is that I would say probably 1 out of 6 get retouches.
Yeah, we actually prefer our work without retouching.
So we do color correction, we do levels on every single photo to make it look the best it can on like Actors Access casting networks. That's why like our rate is middle high, is because I would say I probably take about 3 to 5 hours on everyone's proof sheets.
Yep.
Just going through each one, creating an aesthetic.
And then we don't put like, we let them have all the images and they can just download any of them from the gallery, which is a smug mug gallery usually is what we use. And you just see them just like usually floored and like posting all over the internet, just like, oh, I knew. And then they get the recommendations of good shots from their friends and their family, their agencies. If they don't have an agent, their mentors, their teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Usually,
Yeah.
Sometimes, like I think maybe 4 times out of 100, we'll get somebody who's like, can you help me pick? Are there any that really stand out to you? And of course, we would do it for them. I mean, like,
Well,
hey, like,
say, can you pick like 10 per set?
yeah, that are your
top
favorites.
20.
And then we'll tell you what we think from those are like dynamic and really say something in the eyes, and like the composition of the photo. If it's good, we'll let them know that that's and tell them why.
Because a lot of casting directors will only look at thumbnails. So I think that them sending screenshots and just being like, these are my 20, we can just scroll through and say, that's the money shot. You know, it's like, because most casting directors will have to be able to be halted when they look through a sheet of headshots. They need it to be like that.
Yeah. And it's kind of nice when someone does ask us to do that, because a lot of the times when people pick their photos, we're like, well, that's not the one I would have picked. I mean, we don't have the time to go through every single person's proof and pick for them. I mean, maybe we should offer like an add-on for that or something. I don't know. Like,
I
don't know.
Got this,
But
guys.
it's always nice when someone actually asks for our opinion, because then we get to really be proud of the work as well, and like really like know that, okay, that person, that's who I saw in the room, and that's this really speaks your energy, and that's important, you know.
Because when you're working with someone and you see all their in-betweens, and then you feel that one magical moment that they have, like I think everyone has like that really does want to be in this industry, or that like will thrive in this industry, has that little magical moment that kind of like just stops time for a second. And you're like, I just want to capture that one moment.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people don't capture that one moment. Like they don't actually like pick that one moment. And that's what I think is super weird. They pick the cookie cutter, what what we were talking about earlier,
Yep.
where it's like
Yep.
they pick the thing that people expect because that is what we've been informed to see, and that's what we've been informed to is good. Because I saw this celebrity with a shot that looks almost identical to this, but I'm not this, you know. But I'm like, but that was more important, and that was more you, and that will book you.
Yeah. So usually, if you see like somebody on our website, and it's like we haven't updated our website over a year, which is crazy.
That's stuff to do.
It's been crazy busy over here.
Busy.
But like we usually would pick photos that we liked from the proof and ask them like, hey, can we put this on the website? Because we really like the shot. And then they realize, oh, maybe I should pick that shot. Or we might post it on our Instagram or something. And they usually will end up like reaching out. By the way, can I have this one retouched? You know, like, because, you know,
they can tell that we like it. Feedback about it too. Like they see the feedback that we're getting on it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, I know you shot one of the actors from the studio. It was, I mean, I was blown away when I saw Sal's.
Oh, Sal.
Like his headshot that looks so, you know, professorial and just very professional to this Borat meets.
I love the Borat shot.
We're posting it. We're going to post it with this interview because it is, I mean, you just captured this guy. And I met Sal at a coffee shop. And he was like, oh, I'm thinking about being an actor. I'm like, oh, that's so weird. I'm, you know, I work in film and TV and I have a studio. And like, it's kind of just been this beautiful momentum. And you two just happen to be such a great fit for him. I mean, I just couldn't believe it. I really couldn't.
Sal felt like he, like by the end of the session, had really mastered that idea of the secret art of, can I speak freely? I mean, I don't know if I should use certain words. There's a secret art to not giving a fuck.
Yeah.
And someone wrote a book on that too. And it's a really good book, an interesting book to read. And Sal feels like he's got it. Like he just like said, you know what? I don't care. And the moment you don't care what people think about you, that's when you come out. That's when like that's the real interesting stuff comes out. And that's what I enjoyed about him
too, because
he was fun.
He just kept on throwing curveballs, and I was like, where is this curveball going? And I just wanted to like ride that roller coaster.
Yeah.
And I was like,
he's funny. He's interesting.
Yeah. Each one I was like, oh my gosh. I go, I don't even know how to help you pick one. Just rotate through them because they're all so good.
It's like most people don't have to pick, which is kind of great. Like,
use them. Use all of them. Have fun. Like use them. Abuse your proof sheet. Just use it all. Just pass it out to everyone. That's all I gotta do.
Well, listen. This has been amazing. Thank you both so much. Could you let people know how to get a hold of you if they want to book a session and how far in typically?
We typically do emails. It's the easiest way to get in touch with us. It's the Gingerb3ardmen@gmail.com. The E in beard is a 3, but I think they both go there. No.
Some other people have decided to like capitalize the Gingerb3ardmen. I mean, I don't know why.
We actually got the name from my original Instagram name was Gingerb3ardmen, and it was Gingerb3ardmen because someone else had the E, and so I was like, well, I want this to be and then when Steven and I started, it was STG Photography when Steven was originally just the photographer.
Yeah, because my name is Steven Truman, so I was like STG Photography.
And at the time, we both had real big ginger beards. Mine's all white now, so I keep it really short. Because I'm getting old. It's happening.
Wise.
Yeah, but the Gingerb3ardmen@gmail.com, and they can check out the Gingerb3ardmen.com to see work, or
and also they can DM us on Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram messages.
We'll just send our email and just be like, are you with any agencies, management?
If we're slow to respond, then it's probably because it's in the filtered requests, because we don't know each other yet. So
but we go through those.
Yeah, we do go through those, but sometimes it's like
on Instagram at the Gingerb3ardmen with the 3.
Yeah, the Gingerb3ardmen with the 3, yeah, in the beard. But it's best to do the Gmail because we'll notice it right away. So
yeah. And as far as like booking out in advance, usually we can fit people in.
We usually want to make it work.
Yeah,
because
some people have different deadlines, and we just try to make it work.
Because we both come from the business, and we get it.
Right.
We get it. Steven's an actor, singer, dancer. I'm more of an actor, singer, a little bit. And so we've been through that and we understand the struggle. And that's why
Yeah.
we have a passion for helping people with it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, thank you. This is, I'm just so happy. I'm so happy to have you. Thank you
Ah,
for spending time. I'm greatly appreciative. We'll go ahead and put your information in our Facebook group.